Alright, welcome back to another video of Davian's collection of VHS, DVDs, games, and more. We are back in Accessories again, and we are going to be doing my December 2022 Accessories collection. It's going to be freaking epic. Now let's get on to the video. We're doing the random version now because the bed is removed, unfortunately. So starting with is the SIM card pack right here, which features all the SIM cards, including the SIM ejection tool. Here is the SIM cards with the SIM ejection tool in it. That originally came with the OnePlus Nord N200 5G. Yeah, the Plum, yeah. And I'll show you the SIM cards. This TracFone SIM card here that came with the Samsung Galaxy Core Prime on TracFone. This SIM card works, but it's roaming. This Verizon SIM card that came with the Motorola Droid Razr HD works as well, except it's roaming. Here's that T-Mobile SIM card that came with the LG Style 5 on T-Mobile. It does not work, unfortunately. There's two TracFone SIM cards. They both work, but it's roaming. This Verizon SIM card here doesn't work. This one says 4G. I have two of those. They both work, except they require you to activate. And this SIM card here works, but it's roaming. Next up is this 30-pin 30-pin dock connector. Not 30-pin lightning. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is this cord that comes to the speaker. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up, it is not close to the accessory, but I put it there anyway. This is a Sony DVD player. This one's untested because I don't have the accessories for it. Next up is that LG proprietary charger that comes with the phone I'm going to be showing you. That is from another channel, the LG C1300. If you want to see this phone, head on over to Davian's phone collection, where you can check out my phone collections and stuff. Show you the end of the cord right here. Has these two buttons right here. I got this from eBay, and it works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is this small NAS thing with these cords here. Works totally fine, even though it does need new audio cords and stuff. The one that came with it broke. Next up is this Alcatel charging brick that works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is the activation service guide for the Pantech Breakout. Next up is this box from the LG Style 5 on T-Mobile, which has all the paperwork and stuff, quick start guide, and etc. Other accessories are gone. Next up is this tablet case right here that was originally from the RCA 403. Works totally fine, even though the USB Type-C connector has problems and the stand is missing, but otherwise it does work. Next up is this Sylvania portable DVD player. It works, but it's missing the top where the screen is at. As you may remember from January, that the screen on it was busted. Next up is the case for the iPhone X. Next up is the case for the Samsung Galaxy J3 Orbit. That is gone. Next up is the case for the iPhone 7. This is the one I found at Walmart, located near the Eco ATM. Next up is a case for the OnePlus Nord N200. I don't have this phone anymore. I removed it from my collection. Next up is the CTE charging brick that works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is some sort of marker right here, this crazy art marker that I used to write on, and it works. Next up is this Grand Theft Auto 3 instruction booklet. This is the one that came from my old copy that I had right here. The other copies of the instruction booklet is hidden. Next up is this front box here for the Pantech Breakout. It's seen in my unboxing video on another channel right here. Next up is this white 30-pin dot connector. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is this quick start guide for the LG K31 Rebel. Next up is a master your device guide for the Pantech Breakout on Verizon. Next up is this Walmart Game Center book right here, the magazine, featuring all your favorite games right here on one list. The Nintendo Switch game collection is going to be my future collection. Next up is a bag full of pencils and supplies, plus the calculator I'm going to show you. Here is my Texas Instruments TI-30X2S. That works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. And over here in the bag is the Elmer's glue stick. Here is my Pictionary thing right here with the light on it. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. And this thing can only be used on the Pictionary app. If you have the Pictionary pen and if you don't have the app yet, I want you to download it. Right here. Here's the Pictionary cards that came with the game. Right here. And that's about it for the bag right here. Next up is this working bag right here for the phones from the eBay phone lot and etc. Next up is this Apple charging brick that you can snap this off right here as a magnetic. Right here. Pretty cool feature this, and it works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is this red PS2 memory card that works totally fine even though the connectors are a little messed up. Next up is this battery for the Alcatel Popstar on track phone. The battery works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. I tried it out with the Orbic Journey V. Next up is the Tika charging brick. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is this huge battery. This one's untested. Next up is the fork that I'm going to put back in the kitchen. It's not an accessory, and it's a silverware. Next up, I have 4 of these Samsung batteries here. They all work totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Here is the first one here that came with the Samsung SGH T245G on track phone. That did not work. Here's the one here that came with the Samsung SGH A107. Here's the battery that came with the Samsung SGH S125G that was locked. And here's the battery that came with the Samsung Convoy 4 that had a bad charging port. Next up is this Go Gaming book that I got from my school. Next up is the instruction booklet about the LG K31 Rebel. Next up is this LG charging brick that works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is this cleaning cloth for the Nintendo 3DS/2DS. That's the console I don't have anymore because the screen broke. Next up is this battery for my former portable console, the 401 console. The battery works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. I had to destroy my portable console that has the battery because it has a bad power button and bad battery connectors. And the console is basically useless. Next up is this activation guide for Total Wireless. Next up is another huge battery. I have 2 of those so far. This one's untested as well. Next up is this plastic Alcatel charging brick. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is this Pantech charging brick that came with the Pantech breakout, which I'm going to show you right now. Here it is. Here's the phone that is from Davian's phone collection. If you want to check out this phone, head on over to Davian's phone collection. Sorry about that. This brick works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is this Samsung SD card adapter, which has a micro USB slot in it. This one's untested. Next up is this battery that works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is this mini USB connector that came with my game console, and I'm going to be using it as a charger soon. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is a screwdriver that I am saving for destruction, of course. Yeah, destruction, of course. Next up is this red marker here that I used to write on, and it works. Next up is another screwdriver, except this different size here. It's used for destruction. Next up is the charger for iPod shuffles / other MP3 players. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. I do not have the iPod shuffle 2nd generation anymore. It broke. Next up is this 3.5 to 3.5. Works totally fine and no issues whatsoever. Next up is this 3.5 millimeter to these cords here. It does not work. Next up is this audio cord to audio cord thingy that works totally fine and no issues whatsoever. Next up, I think is a cord right here that goes to the charger for the computer. It works totally fine and no issues whatsoever. Next up are 2 of my Genesis controllers that fits up with the game console here. Here's the first one here, and here's the second one here. They both work totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is this controller that goes for the small NES here with 620 It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. When I got that console, it came with the other controller, but the D-pad was having problems, so I had to destroy it before I started that channel. Next up is the charger for my Sylvania DVD player. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. It charges fast. Next up is another audio-to-audio cord thingy that works totally fine, except one of the cords don't work on it. And last but not least is the charger for my computer, the gateway computer. I still have it, but it doesn't work due to the hinge. The charger works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Now that's going to do me with my December 2022 accessories collection. I'm going to be throwing away this video audio to headphone jack thingy because this thing no longer works. It has a hole in the cord and the scrape from the red. This is Dabian's collection of VHS, DVDs, games, and more. Thank you for watching. I hope you like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you again in my next video.